We start with last night's massacre in the Ukrainian city of Odessa. Please be warned, some people may find the following pictures disturbing. As you can see, the clashes between pro and anti-government activists in Odessa was brutal from the onset. 43 people were killed and almost 200 injured. The most gruesome episode took place in the middle of the city, where radical nationalists besieged and firebombed a building associated with anti-government groups. RT's Maria Finoshina is outside what's left of that building.
This is the building where, for weeks, those protesting against the country's current authorities were gathering, and at the time when ultra-nationalists and football fans, after marching through the central streets of the city, arrived, many of the activists were inside the building, and we now hear that over 30 people were killed there. Some of them burnt alive, while others suffocated to death or were killed trying to jump out of the windows. This is what we hear from the eyewitnesses.
Women and children hid in the trade union's building. First, the armed men set fire to tents, then started throwing Molotov cocktails and grenades at the building. We heard shots fired, saw thick smoke.
There were about 50 of us on the roof, men and women. The right sector was blocking the streets. We looked down at what was happening around us and thought they wouldn't let us out alive. People from other floors were brought down, and the extremists attacked them like a pack of wolves. Then the police escorted us from the building. There was no violence then, but we had to step over dead bodies when we were coming down the stairs.
I saw at least 6 people jumping from the building. I think they're dead. I carried some people with head wounds. At the same time, there were shots from behind the backs of the security forces. Someone was firing a machine gun. We have the empty shells to prove it.
There are also reports that up to 4 others were shot dead during battles here in the town. And again, it is the worst bout of violence here in the town of Odessa in southern Ukraine.
We've had reaction pouring in worldwide, but not all that much explanation or clarity from Kiev. Let's discuss that and the events in Odessa with Dean Henderson, geopolitical analyst and author of The Grateful Unrich Revolution in 50 Countries. Thank you for being with us here on RT International. What does this mean for Ukraine now?
Well, it's just a continuation of the aggression, from this Putsch-installed government, which basically, February 20th, we had snipers on rooftops, and everybody said it was Yanukovych, and then but no, it wasn't. It was the Mossad in there training these people, agent provocateurs. Who are these guys today in the black mask? Who are these guys at the back of the security forces shooting? So it's a destabilization of Ukraine. It's all about resources. And this government has no legitimacy. I predicted a while back, just like they did with the Orange Revolution and Tymoshenko, they'll see through this. They'll already in the East, they want out. Nobody wants to deal with these fascists. And it's all about resources. It goes all the way up to the IMF aggression back in October when they said, well, we'll double your electricity rates. We'll privatize your farmland and sell it to foreigners. We'll cut pensions. We'll cut medical care for the people. And actually, those are being implemented as we speak. So the aggression goes all the way up to the bankers, the IMF, the Euro, and into the State Department and the Eurozone.
I just want us to take a listen quickly to what one of the witnesses just told us. Let's have a listen there.
I got to downtown Odessa when the clashes had already started. I saw about 2,000 gunmen wearing black and camouflage uniforms. Some of them had automatic weapons. It seems some police were attacked as well. At some point, they were given orders to move out, and that's when the worst violence started. I can still hear some of the radicals walking around the city and chanting their slogans. The police don't seem to be doing anything about these armed men, though.
No doubt some disturbing images we're seeing there, and according to other witnesses too, the police came late and left early. In your opinion, what's their plan then?
Well, again, I think it's just destabilization. They don't want any, they're going to blame everything on Russia. They're like bullies, bullies blame everything on the victim, and then they get beat up and they want to cry about it. But, it's basically going to be a cold winter in Europe if this stuff keeps up. And, the Russians, what are they going to do? That's the next question. But, Putin's shown great restraint thus far, great diplomacy, while the United States and the EU and the international banking cartel that's behind all this has showed nothing but aggression. They just want to stir the pot. They want those resources. They want the grain. You know, Ukraine's the third biggest grain exporter in the world. It's not a overstatement to say it's the breadbasket of the Eastern Hemisphere. And so there's natural gas transit routes, pipelines, and things like this. So it's all about resources. The oligarchs are behind the scenes, and the fascists are on the front line, and they're just trying to destabilize it and take over resources and prevent, any, referendums or any true democratic means, which we saw in the Crimea.
We've heard the United States urging for an investigation, but they stayed clear of actually condemning what had happened overnight. Do you expect fair conclusions, given that these were anti-government activists that died?
Yeah, that's all they're going to say about it. Very timid, but we know who's all behind this, and it's the Mossad, and the CIA, and the British MI6. Let's not kid ourselves, So they can make all their statements they want, but the fact of the matter is, as I say, the aggression today that happened in Odessa and in towns around Ukraine goes all the way up to the State Department.
How do you see this crisis ending? I mean, hypothetically speaking, how do you foresee the end of what is going on right now in Ukraine?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I think probably there's going to have to be some solution at the Security Council. You're going to have to divide the country along, people who want to be in the east and the west is pretty much a split. But it's tragic. It's another case again where there's no good options anymore, because when you go in and march a democratically elected president, as Yanukovych was, out at gunpoint under threat of death, well, good things usually don't happen. So expect more strife, more protests, more violence, unfortunately. But eventually, I think they're going to have to come to the table, the Russians and the United States, and they're going to have to cut a deal where it's going to have to be divided across the east-west line, probably.
Dean Henderson, geopolitical analyst and author of The Grateful Unrich: Revolution in 50 Countries. Thank you for your input.